All right, quick review, some history, because I like doing that. All the way up to 2014, GC, GD, GR, little tiny 2-piston brake pad, and a little 294 millimeter by 24 millimeter rotor. That was on all the WRXs. They had two different 2-piston pads. And then a couple of years, 06, 07, they had the 4 pots. Again, but they all use the same, it's about 12-pound rotor. Pretty poor for track use. You just light the whole thing on fire. Anyway, 2015 comes around. The VA comes out. I bought one of those. That was a pretty good car. So what they did was they took the front brakes from some of the legacy GT and or Outback cars and put it on the front of the WRX. So one, you got a pretty good increase in pad size. Still a 2-piston slider, but still a pretty big increase in the pad size, surface area, etc. And even a little thicker based on that. And more so, a much bigger disc. So it went from 294 millimeters to 316 millimeters and 30 millimeters thick. This sucker's a good 8 or 9 pounds heavier than this. That's a lot of needed brake mass for that car, and quite a bit better. Still not a fixed caliper like an STI or something, but hey, we'll take what we can get. So then they finally start to come out with the VB, and it was a little interesting. I think sort of something to do with parts bin, manufacturing, whatever. But this is the pad from the VB. Now, they went down in size on the pad, back to really similar to the early gen stuff. So you can see that. And then the rotor maintained the diameter of the VA rotor. It is actually only 28 millimeters thick, not 30. But you can see also too, now this is an aftermarket K&S rotor. It has DBA's pillar vane design. This is Subaru's actual rotor. That's a straight vane, I'm pretty sure. I can't see in there, but it looks like a straight vane rotor. It does have a smaller air gap. So they're pretty similar in weight. So you got a pretty good amount of mass. Just really interesting that they went down in brake pad size. And then just for reference, by the way, these brakes are not significantly smaller than the STI rotors, at least the early ones. The newer 18 plus green ones are even another size larger. But I do like that big air gap because getting air through, that's always a good argument. Do you want more air gap or more mass? Well, it depends who you ask probably and how you're driving the car, etc. Anyway, so that's that. Any questions? Doesn't matter because I can't hear you. So now let's take a look. Let's see. So we're going to take this car to VIR, and I just left the stock pads in there just to prove it doesn't work. So we'll burn them up in a couple of sessions, and I did do the brake fluid because I'm not that dumb, but we probably fry these pads pretty quickly. We might try these autocross pads, but we probably get some race pads in there because really ultimately that's what's needed. I just want to see what it feels like for, maybe a first day guy. Like, what can you actually get away with stock stuff? Again, I did do the fluid. You don't want to boil the fluid. It's a bad idea. Losing brakes on track is not really making much sense. Good news is, or whatever, a couple other things. I think it's here. This might be something that you want for your daily driver. That's EBC's Ultimax pad. It's going to be a low dust. It's going to be much like the OEM pad. And once we get our K&S rotors on board, we'll try to offer some packages with these. We're probably going to run these after the stock pads to see how they compare as just a replacement for a daily driver type. Because I have a feeling it'll be pretty good. And the price on these will certainly be right. We'll try their yellow stuff. And they gave us some race compounds as well. The other thing we're going to do eventually is we can't fit the Subaru 4-pot on the front of this car without doing a really oddball rotor. And again, that caliper, the Subaru 4-pot, goes with the old tiny rotor. So it's not really it's an upgrade in maybe pedal feel, but certainly not in braking capacity. What we can do, however, is take this bracket and this Nissan Z32 version of the Subaru 4-pot, which happens to be aluminum as well, and we can use that directly with the stock rotor. Then we have a fixed caliper. It is you know, not a huge brake pad, but it'll be a 4-piston caliper on the stock rotor. So this should be, you know, I got these off of Rock Auto for $150 a caliper. So that might be a good, moderately priced upgrade. We'll get that on the car after the track event, do some daily driving with some street pads, etc. Hopefully that really helps with the sort of soft pedal, because this should be a much firmer setup. With a modern set of pads, we have good street performance. That's the goal there. We'll be back. We'll report back on that later. Also, the red Subaru 2-pots, again, $125 a caliper on Rock Auto. It is a reman, so, you know, we'll kind of be a little aware of that. I'm probably going to paint these and these before I put them on there because, I don't know, seems like a good idea. At least look better. Part of it is appearance, obviously. But again, this will work with our bracket on the rear and use the stock rotor. So again, you're not buying rotors, you're getting a fixed caliper upgrade at a pretty reasonable price. That could be really nice. We can't wait to really try that out. I've kind of been waiting too long for that because I've had these parts for a while, but I don't know. I was lazy. Anyway, we'll go take a quick look at the back brakes, just kind of go over what we see back there so you know, and I'll be right back. Coming in. So anyway, in the rear of the car, interestingly, we talked about the fronts being a little smaller than the VA brakes. In the rear, they gave us the BRZ brakes. So that's a vented rotor instead of a solid rotor that the VA had in the back, and a slightly bigger brake pad than the VA. So the main improvement being, or the main benefit being the vented rear disc, and then the pad's a little larger. That, again, that was the rear of the BRZ and Legacy GTs, etc. The good news there is upgrades to the rear are the same as they were on previous generations. So now we have parts ready for that. Our KNS brackets to put the 2-pots or the gold Brembos on the back of the car are available. We'll double check with fitment. Might need to work on a brake line or, you know, something like that. But that's the next thing we're going to get to. Excuse me. One interesting thing I just noticed while bleeding the brakes. That's metal, or steel, I should say, or iron, and that is not. Now, I don't know, I don't have a BRZ, but that's an aluminum caliper right there. So that's going to be a little bit lighter than probably the VA rear. I think that was iron. I don't remember it being aluminum. Interesting little tidbit. So, I don't know, you BRZ guys could maybe save a pound because I bet you it'd fit in your bracket. So there you go. So that's the VB brakes in 3 or 4 minutes, and hopefully, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow at VIR. Can't wait to go. It's been a bit since I've been on track, and it's been a long bit since I've been on track in the Subaru. So we'll see. Thanks. Got a monkey do.